A shadow over the throne. History tends to remember the victors but forgets their loneliness. It glorifies dynasties, yet hides behind marble palace walls the disappointments, betrayals, and tears of their rulers. It depicts grandeur but shyly averts its gaze from emotion. And yet, it was emotion, uncertain, inconvenient, unspoken, that often moved the world more than armies, laws, or crowns. A single love could give birth to a religion. One heart could dismantle an empire. One betrayal could alter the course of history. This is not a story about who monarchs were. It is a story about who they might have become. When they chose not the throne but love. When, in obeying their hearts, they betrayed blood and country. Or when they gave up those same hearts for the sake of the people. And each such choice left a mark, not in the pages of chronicles, but in the very fabric of time. Before you lies a history in which documents blend with speculation, and reality intertwines with possibility. It is a chronicle of pain, power, and passion. A chronicle of alternatives. The trial of desire. In 16th century England, attention hung over the royal court like a silent bell. Westminster's walls echoed with a strain between past and future, between the Pope and the King, between one wife and another woman. Henry VIII, a sovereign with the power of a lion, felt the cold touch of time. He had everything, except what mattered most, a son. Catherine of Aragon, noble but weary, had given him a daughter but no heir. And as her youth faded, Henry's impatience flared. He sought love, but found a challenge. And Boleyn did not enter his life as comfort, but as a storm. She bowed to no man, refused traditional roles, and thus captured not only his heart but the destiny of the realm. What began as passion became obsession, a trap from which neither the king nor his kingdom could escape. And was intelligent, bold, and untouchable. She demanded marriage. And to win her, Henry severed ties not only with a woman, but with an entire church. He rejected Rome's authority and created his own faith. Thus was born the Church of England, baptized in desire and defiance. The crown and the sword. Henry and Anne's marriage shook Europe. In the French courts, whispers rose, in Spanish monasteries, prayers were said for her downfall. But love does not heed diplomats. It demands all and forgives nothing. When Anne gave birth to a daughter instead of a son, the king felt mocked by fate. Rumors slithered into his ear, of adultery, witchcraft, even incest with her brother. Soon, the crowned queen stood before a tribunal, her eyes not fearful, but bewildered. The trial was a performance. The accusations were pre-written. Truth was irrelevant. Only the verdict mattered. And on May 19, 1536, within the tower's damp and death-soaked walls, a French executioner severed Anne's head with a single stroke. She did not scream. Her eyes, they say, did not close at once. They stared upward, perhaps at heaven, or at England itself. Her blood did not simply stain the stone, it soaked into England's soul, changing it forever. Gain and ruin. Anne's death became a point of no return. Henry, having crossed the line, burned the bridges behind him. The monarchy no longer bowed to the Pope. Monasteries fell like towers of cards, their riches feeding the royal treasury. The church now belonged to the crown. And with it, the souls of the people. England stepped into an age where faith became a tool and beliefs a weapon. Fires were lit. Informers multiplied. Executions followed. Not from hatred, but from fear. Fear of what once had been possible, a woman who dared to love and be loved on her own terms. But what if? That haunting phrase. What if Anne had borne a son? A healthy, legitimate heir. Then perhaps the world wouldn't have shattered. Perhaps the Pope, seeing England's future secured, would have compromised. Perhaps the schism could have been avoided. Elizabeth might have lived in her brother's shadow. No Spanish Armada. No Protestant Empire. No Anglican Church. the world might have turned differently. Europe might have remained religiously united. The British Empire might never have been born. Parliamentary democracy, the global spread of English law, none of it might have existed. Epilogue, the trace of love. And Boleyn died, but from her death sprang new life. Her name became a symbol, of resistance, of failure, of transformation. Henry, lost in his loneliness, married 3 more times. Yet none of his wives shaped history as she did, the one who once dared to look the king in the eye and not lower her gaze. She did not seek power. She sought equality. And so she lost. But she lost with dignity. Her execution was not merely a punishment, it was a state ritual in which truth had long since been erased from the script. History is a cruel architect. It builds bridges from bones and palaces from tears. And sometimes, in its vast chambers, it is not the clash of swords that echoes, but the whisper of feelings. If Anne had lived longer. If mercy had spared her. Perhaps the borders of nations would be different. Perhaps prayers would still be sung in Latin. Perhaps the very notion of freedom would have followed another path. But she died. And in dying, she changed everything. History remembers her as a victim. But perhaps, she was the cause. The cause of faith, of pain, of independence, and of the world we live in.